It was definitely very lonely, and I felt like I was constantly around like the unknown of why this is happening. I'm Eddie Siegel. I'm 17. I go to Crestwood Preparatory College, and I'm graduating high school this year with the hopes of going to university next year. So when I was in grade two, it wasn't really apparent until that point. Everything was normal because you're not really expected to have like substantial reading comprehension and literacy at that point. But once I kind of reached the point where there's expectations for you to be a little bit more literate and have good reading comprehension and language skills, I was lacking those skills compared to the rest of my peers and even my brother at the point who was like significantly younger than me. Reading was always a challenge for me. Uh, I remember like even when I was in class at such a young age, we would do like the group reading, and my teachers would always call on me on the spot, like Eddie, can you read this passage for me? And I go and I'd mess up like every word. I would get stuck. Like I'd have to call over the teacher to come help me. Like I just had no idea what I was reading or what I was doing, and it was stressful and it was quite upsetting. Like I'd read with my parents, like they'd read me a story before bed. And then eventually, like they wanted to know, like, what are you learning in school? Like, how's it going? Like, so they'd ask me to read like a few sentences and show them. And I was reading and I couldn't do it. Like obviously I got like some of the words, but like I was like really struggling. And my parents, like, they would always say, like, "You're so capable in so many other ways. Why are like, is it something wrong with, like, your learning or, like, what is it?" And then eventually they're like, "Okay." My parents were saying, "His time will come. He'll eventually develop, his literacy skills." But then that time never really came, and this is around, like, 3rd grade where everybody else, all of my peers, especially my brother, are demonstrating, like, good reading comprehension and good reading skills altogether, and I couldn't read. I couldn't read at all, and my parents it got to the point where my parents thought I was, like, messing with them, that I was,
Interesting.
like, yeah, they thought I was just, like, joking around, and yeah, and I'm like, "What do you mean?" I didn't understand, like, what they were insinuating. They're like, "Are you trying?" Or I'm like, "What do you mean?" "Yeah." I'm like, "I'm trying to read." And they're like, "Are you sure? Like, are you not?" Like, they thought I was, like, joking with them. At such a young age, I didn't really understand, like, I was already demonstrating lots of, high capabilities in other areas of my academics, like, I was very good at math. I always loved math, a big problem-solving guy. I had good, like, oral communication, so it clearly wasn't like an English like
Mhm.
competency issue. So I really didn't understand for the life of me why I couldn't read. But I thought like maybe it was just a lack of practice. But like I try to pick up books 'cause I thought like that'd be the solution, just practice a little more. But I couldn't practice. I wasn't able to read at all, and I wasn't able to identify the issue. And I felt kind of alone on the matter because there's no way to know that it was such an issue. And I feel like my parents at that time knew, and they were being very understanding about it. But yeah, it was definitely very lonely, and I felt like I was constantly around like the unknown of why this is happening. And if you would ask my parents, they would say they kind of discovered it quite late because there was definitely clear indications that I was suffering from dyslexia at an earlier age, but we really only found out around grade 2 to grade 4. We kind of introduced the idea that it may be a possibility around grade 2, but then we really only seek like professional help around grade 4 and got like a proper diagnosis. I remember I was doing these psych ed assessments. They would take hours. They would pull me out of school like 2 times a week, and it would be like 4-hour sessions. We did that like
Wow.
a few times, and then they finally came back to my parents with a diagnosis. I feel like my parents understood the diagnosis before me because
Mm.
they only told me because they wanted to figure out how to tell me so like I wouldn't like destroy my confidence. So that they wouldn't destroy my confidence. They wanted to like tread lightly around the topic because they didn't know how I'd react to it. And so to be honest, I never really heard from my parents, but now looking back, I feel like they definitely were able to identify the cause, and they were the first ones to get the diagnosis. So
Mhm.
yeah, it was definitely a tough journey. I would say that the hardest part was the original diagnosis. That was the relief. So we know that there's like we have identified the issue, but now it was kind of like, where do we go from there? And yeah, then that just unlocked a whole new journey for me. I was with like a reading teacher, like it was kind of like a in-school tutor. She would visit like other kids that had like literacy issues. I don't know if they were officially diagnosed with dyslexia, but some people just needed a little bit more help,
Mhm.
especially at a young age. Everyone learns at their own pace, but I was definitely there for dyslexia, and she would take me out of class, like, I don't know, like, I think at one point it was like every day,
Wow.
out of one class every day. And I remember she'd come in, and this particular reading tutor had the reputation that like all of like the kids that learned a bit slower would uh go study with her. And I just remember every time she'd take me out of class, I'd feel like that it was like a deep, like it was like a sadness, like when she was like taking me out of class. I felt like I wasn't like as good as everybody else. And like, I don't know, I just felt like it was just like a deep feeling in my chest. Like, it was like I don't want to say like a depression, because that's like a little bit too deep, but
Mhm.
it was like an unexplainable like sadness. There was definitely a big shame factor to it. It felt like
Wow.
almost shameful. And I'd do my lesson, and I just felt like, and I'm very thankful for everything that they did for
Of
me, and they
course.
tried to help me. Unfortunately, couldn't, but I just remember like it, even at a young age, I'd think like this is kind of pointless. Like I remember she would get like so frustrated with me. Like I'd try reading, and I'd mess up. And yeah, she's just like, yeah, it was definitely not the most ideal situation. She was very nice about it for the most part, but there's definitely like, people have their limits, and she was definitely
Mhm.
got frustrated at
Yeah.
certain points that I wasn't understanding what she was teaching me. And I completely understand. Like, there's only so many times that you can teach something where somebody is not going to get it. Like, you can teach something as many times as you want, but if a student's not like responding to that particular teaching or learning even
Mhm.
at such a young age, then it is kind of pointless at that point. I was like the final 2 years I was at that school. They really tried to do everything they could to resolve this. At the time, they would say my learning at my own pace. So they wanted to like accelerate my learning and my reading abilities. And it just wasn't working. Because I also have ADHD, so it's very hard as it is to focus on things that I
Mhm.
don't enjoy as much. And not saying I don't enjoy reading now, but at the time when you're at, even at that age, when you're so like you just can't get it, it's frustrating. You kind of want to like pull yourself away from that, because
Yeah.
it's like, it's like you're associating reading with like failure, or like something you're unable to do. And it felt terrible, to be honest. I mean, for the most part, I was very fortunate. Everyone was very nice about it. There were definitely some moments that I think could have been handled a little bit better, but generally speaking, everything was handled well. But the things, like the small things that could have been improved on, were sometimes like the teacher's patience. Uh, it can definitely be frustrating. I mean, humans are humans. Like, we all have our limits, but when it comes to like a young student, and they're even though they're struggling at something, it's important to not like lose your temper in such a way. Or I know it's frustrating for them, but it could be like demoralizing. The one thing that it can improve on is uh, that learning environments aren't just like a one like a one-way thing, like a one method thing. Like, everybody learns in different ways at different paces. And I feel like the idea that teaching teachers the idea that there's only one way to learn something is flawed, in my opinion, because everybody learns differently, everyone's brain's different, and that's what makes us so unique and special as humans. Like, we're all different. That's what makes life so interesting. And so, yeah, I think teachers, and I'm not saying all teachers, because my teachers have been amazing. I love all my teachers. Um, they could go about it a little bit more with an open mind, with like a diverse way of learning. I remember it was at one dinner. We were at the dinner table and we were just talking. My parents told me like, "Hey, Eddie, you're not going back to your school next year." I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, are we moving or something? Like, I thought they were gonna say something like exciting or I don't know.
Mhm.
And then they're like, no, we're sending you to a different school. And I'm like at first I was very caught off guard, a little bit in shock. And I'm like, well, how come? Like, is like did something happen? Did I do something wrong? Did something happen at the school? Like, what's going on? They're like, no, we found another school for you, and we think it's gonna be a better fit. I'm like, what school? They made me take a guess. I obviously I didn't know many schools at the time, so I didn't get it. But like, anyways, they told me eventually. They're like, "You're going to Crestwood," and then I was very shocked, and I don't want to say I was a little bit like emotional about being told that because I'd known that school like essentially for like my whole life at that point. I'd started off in SK and had gone all the way till grade 4, and I didn't really know how to feel on the matter. So I felt like a little bit emotional because like I had all my friends there and I had a good establishment there. And now they're just gonna be sending me to a brand new school. And I'm like, well, why am I gonna be going to this school? And then I feel like that's where they told me where that's where I was going to get the help for my dyslexia and get the proper literacy training, if you will. I would say it was definitely an emotional transition. I had to leave all of my friends behind. I still stayed in contact with some of them, but for the most part, I was stepping into a new environment, and yeah, it was basically all unknown at that point. And I didn't really know what to feel. I didn't feel I felt anxious. Like my mom had to, I remember it was my first week of school. It was like the second or third day, my mom had to take me to the doctor because I woke up and I kept complaining about like my chest. I described it as like a horse was standing on my chest. And then she took me to the doctor because she was worried like it could have been like a medical thing, but it just turns out it was nerves. So it was definitely very nerve wracking, just being in a new environment, but it was a very accepting and nurturing environment. And I really not only had a great time like meeting new people, but I also was very thankful for all the help I was able to get even at such a young age, even though if I that the issue wasn't diagnosed till I was much older. I was
Mhm.
around like 9 when I went to Crestwood. So that it's a bit later, but I was able to get the help early enough, and I'm
Yeah.
very thankful for that. When I first went to Crestwood, it was a new environment, and I didn't know many people, but I had my new reading tutor, I guess at the time. We called her like the Orton Gillingham specialist, which was the particular method of teaching that I was given at Crestwood to help with my dyslexia.
Mhm.
So I essentially had to relearn English and how to read English at the time, and I did it with that teacher, and I'm forever grateful to that teacher because they were able to help me rekindle my confidence in academics, and they were able to help me overcome dyslexia or manage it to the
Mhm.
extent where now I'm able to go to university and I'm able to comprehend and read like all of my other peers. Although it felt like there was a lot of work to be done, I wasn't thinking at the time. Now looking back, I don't know how I didn't think like or was overwhelmed by the journey ahead because I felt like that particular teacher made me feel so comfortable with what's coming up next. And we didn't really treat it like there's a lot of work to get done. We took it day by day. She's like, Eddie, she'd tell me this. She's like, Eddie, if you improve a little bit every day, if I see some improvement from you today, I'll I'll say that's a successful day. And she'd always tell me, Eddie, you're amazing. And she'd always say, Eddie, you're so bright. And I know you're gonna get over this and you're gonna be super successful one day. And that honestly, like that made me feel very, very understood and very, very comforted, if that makes sense. We didn't only learn like how to read and sharpen my English and literacy skills. But she'd make sure I'd feel comfortable doing so. Like she was like very empathetic, and I really admired that. She gave me not only my confidence in academics, but confidence in life. Like at the time, I would say I was like a little bit insecure with my intellect because I would say people would treat me like I was just like some stupid kid that didn't know how to read. And yeah, it was definitely like crushing it was definitely like soul crushing, and I find like she restored my confidence in myself and in academics, and I'm forever grateful for that teacher. Now it's definitely much better. Barely a thing anymore, and it took lots of work at the beginning, and it still takes work. But I would say I try to read a little bit every day. It doesn't matter what I read. Like read like the Wall Street Journal or Washington Post. Like I read those every morning. But in terms of reading books, I try to read as many books as I can to kind of like maintain my reading skills that I was able to develop a foundation when I came to Crestwood. Uh, yeah, I would say I try to read a little bit every day and just maintain my sharpness. But
That's
I would say it's not as much of a struggle now as it was when I was younger, because when I was younger was when I was laying all the foundation and kind of overcoming that hurdle of dyslexia. Now it's much more smooth and intuitive. Now that I've laid the foundation and relearned how to read and write and understand all like reading comprehension all together. So at first for school, we have to do like mandatory community service in order to graduate. We need 40 hours of community service. So instead of just like treating it like, okay, I got to get the 40 hours done, let's just get it done and get it over with and just pick any cause and go with that. And I'm not throwing shade at people that do that. I'm
okay.
just saying that I wanted to make sure that my volunteer hours and work and contribution was as meaningful as possible and made the most lasting impact as possible. So what I did was I went I at first I had to think, well, what do I want to support? What causes do I want to support? And I was going through all of them. Like I at first I wanted to support cancer research or um and then eventually it came to me, and my parents, with the help of my parents, obviously, they're like, well, you've struggled with dyslexia your whole life. Why don't you go support that? I'm like, you know what? That's a great idea. And I go looking online, and I see like it's such like an underfunded cause, and it's very prevalent. So what a great initiative to support is supporting kids with dyslexia. So I went looking for organizations that support dyslexia. I read like all of their missions, like their About Us page, and I wanted to find the one that really understands students the most, because that's something I always loved when I was younger, when I felt understood by not only my teachers but the people around me. So I that was like kind of the criteria that I looked for when choosing the organizations. And then I came across Dyslexia Canada. I read all of your guys' stats. I read your guys' mission, and I really agreed with your mission and admired your mission. So I felt like that was the perfect organization. So I went down to the bottom page, and I found Jackie's phone number, and I gave her a call, and I'm like, listen, I'm a 17-year-old kid. I wanna volunteer your organization. Is this something I can do? And I had to write an application as well. And then she's like, we're not really accepting volunteers at the moment because uh we're having issues with funding. Not necessarily issues. She said like we don't have a lot of funding, and there's not much for us to offer you right now. We don't have anything for you to do. And I'm like, okay, I completely understand. And then I just thought, I'm like, okay, so we ended the conversation. And then it came to me, well, if they're underfunded, why don't I just start my own fundraiser, my own initiative to raise money for this organization so that more kids can have the positive experience I had with overcoming dyslexia. And even the less fortunate kids, because I was very fortunate in terms of all of the help that I was able to get at such a young age. So I really wanted to give back to my community with all of the success that I now carry from overcoming dyslexia. So yeah, I emailed Jackie, and I'm like, I know you don't have any work for me to do as a volunteer, but is it possible if I start my own fundraiser to raise money for your organization? She said, absolutely, that would be much appreciated. And yeah, we'll stay in contact. I'm like, perfect. So then the next thing was, what do I do for the fundraiser? And then I got started thinking, now I really like basketball. Like I like watching basketball. I like playing basketball. I think it's an all around great sport. So I'm like, why don't I just host a basketball tournament? I'm like, okay, good idea. Now I need to go to the next thing. How do I get gym space and how do I get participants that can donate? So I go around and make a post on LinkedIn after I've obviously spoke to my school and secured gym space for February 23rd. At this particular time in the process, it was around like March 20th around. I'm sorry, not March 20th, January 20th. We had just come back from winter break, and I went to the athletic director and the principal, and I'm like, I need gym space for this initiative that I want to run. Is this a possibility that is it a possibility that I can have some of the gym space on like a Sunday or something like that, like a day where nobody has like any homework or any school? Is that possible? They're like, yeah, absolutely. We really support the initiative that you want to start. And we're like, absolutely, we'll do it and free of charge. I'm like, thank you. Perfect. That way there's no expenditures taken from the proceeds of the fundraiser. And yeah, so from there I'd secured gym space and a date. So now I just have to raise awareness and get people to buy into the fundraiser and donate and spread awareness. So from there, I made a post on LinkedIn basically saying I'm going to be holding a fundraiser. Please donate at this link, which I got from Leah. She made me like a donation link, and I posted that on LinkedIn, and I wrote a little description about it and how dyslexia is so underfunded, and that your organization, Dyslexia Canada, is a great organization. How they advocate for students and children suffering for dyslexia. So yeah, from there, I got a lot of support on LinkedIn and a lot of support from peers at school, and everyone was interested in joining. The only problem that I ran into was everyone was very excited and very eager to donate, but nobody wanted to show up for the fundraiser because like nobody wanted to give up their weekends. I mean, I don't blame them. Like people like their weekends. So from there, I had to get more incentive. So I'm like, I made like a post at school. We use like a platform called Edsby. It's
Mhm.
like a it's like a it's like a platform where you can look at like all of our classwork and like all of the announcements from school. And it's called a river. So the school made a post like on the river that broadcasted to all the students and staff saying that this initiative that I called Dunks for Dyslexia, that was kind of like the fun name I gave the
Nice.
fundraiser, was going to be taking place at Crestwood on February 23rd. And anybody interested in playing has to make a minimum donation of $50 in order to secure their player ticket. And yeah, from there, that definitely helped. I got some people from school that were interested in playing. And I asked my brother to reach out to all of his friends, and I asked my dad to reach out to people if they want to come and watch or even just support. Like they don't even have to come. They could just like support the cause because it's such a great cause that I'm so passionate about that. Yeah, just like please, I asked everyone to if they can participate and if they can minimum ask 10 other people if they're
Nice.
interested. And that way I was able to get a lot of recognition and spread a lot of awareness for the initiative. There was definitely particular times when people like weren't interested and that we needed more money. And I just thought to myself, like, um, not only if I don't push for more, if I don't like not like push, but like if I don't like influence for more and I don't raise more awareness and raise more money, then I'm not only cheating Dyslexia Canada, but I'm cheating the kids that are going to get the support from you guys. And that really like it kept me going. I was doing it for all the kids that were going to get benefit from this. And yeah, and then from that point the money just started coming in, and it was honestly it was great. It was a very it was it was a very I don't know how to say it. It was a very it's like almost like an undescribable feeling. It was a very emotional feeling. It was a very happy feeling that after everything I've gone through at such a young age and now growing up to this point in my life with going to university next year. Because at the time when I was younger, they weren't sure if I'd be able to go to university at all. Like that's how much of an issue it was. And now I'm in this position where I'm going to university and I'm able to raise awareness for kids that are less fortunate than I was, so they can have equally as good of an educational experience as I did overcoming dyslexia. And yeah, so I spread awareness that way, hosted the tournament. It was great. We had a great time. It was a lot of fun. A lot of guys came out. Yeah, it was amazing, and we ended up raising a good amount of money. Although I feel like the money that I raised this year was a substantial amount of money. I really want to make this initiative an annual thing, and I want to continue to do this for a longer period of time because I really support everything that you guys are doing as an organization. And I really feel like dyslexia is a underfunded issue and such a prevalent issue that it needs more support and more funding and more awareness. So I want to do this annually and just keep everything going.
Oh,
So yeah, and even though I'm going to university next year, I still want to continue the initiative. If anything, I feel like it's going to be better because I'm going to have more exposure to more people and a bigger network, and be able to get the university involved, hopefully. Uh, and yeah, just make it a much bigger production than this year. The advice that I'd give is don't treat dyslexia as like a long journey that you have ahead of you. Take it step by step, day by day, hour by hour. It's not something that you need to get done like right now. It's a process, and I'm not gonna lie, it takes a long time, and you really have to stay disciplined and work hard and maintain like your grit towards improving your reading and your comprehension overall literacy. But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with you. It's completely normal. Many people have had dyslexia, and many people that have dyslexia are successful. So you're not the first one to go through this. And yeah, just keep pushing, keep working hard, and eventually you'll succeed. I mean, looking ahead in the future, I'm very excited. I want to pursue a career in finance as of now. I'm going to university to hopefully study finance. And yeah, I'm excited for bringing this initiative to life even more in the future. That's also something I'm very excited about. I don't just want to keep make this an initiative from when I'm in high school. I want to do this throughout university and throughout my career and throughout life. I want to make this like an annual thing for the rest of my life. And yeah, because it's just such an important uh, cause. But for the future, what I'm very excited for is what's up next, like my career, my next steps in university. I'm very excited for everything. The people I'm going to meet along the way in this next journey. I'm very excited for all of that.